Hi viewers, this is Dr. Shahzad Kareem. This video is the extension of my previous video in which I explained the concepts of interlanguage and fossilization. In response to that video, some of the viewers and particularly some of my students asked me to explain these two concepts further so that they should be able to fully grasp the concepts of interlanguage and fossilization. Similarly, some of the viewers also asked me to explain these two concepts with the help of some examples. So in this video, I try to make these two concepts easier for you, and for that purpose, I will give you a very small tip through which you can easily understand the concepts of interlanguage and fossilization. Similarly, to further explain these two concepts, I will use some examples also. First, I explain the concept of interlanguage. As a speaker of the English language, you would have noticed that in English, we often use a prefix inter. And whenever we use this prefix inter, it refers to something which lies between the two things. For example, we often use a phrase intercity transport. This phrase intercity transport refers to the transport that moves between the cities. Same is the case in interlanguage. The term interlanguage refers to the concept, that is when a learner is lying between two languages, that is his mother tongue and the target language. So that stage is known as interlanguage. So as you have noticed that when we are learning a new language or a second language, we have already learned our first language and we are in the process of learning the second language. And this process sometimes takes months and sometimes takes years. So this whole period when we are moving from our first language to the second language, so this whole process or this whole stage is known as interlanguage, because during this period we are between two languages, that is our mother tongue and the target language. As a speaker of the English language, you would have noticed, or as a learner of the English language, you would have noticed that the learning of English, whether in the natural context or in the instructional language learning context, we always take time. And during that process of learning the target language, that is the English language, we often make mistakes. And with the passage of time, we correct our mistakes. And these mistakes are sometimes because of the interference of our mother tongue, our native language, and sometimes they occur because of the overgeneralization of the rules of the English language. In this regard, I would like to give you an example of English language and Arabic language. Those learners whose first language, native language, is Arabic, they make a very common mistake when learning English language. That is, they do not use auxiliaries, because they are not auxiliaries in Arabic language. For example, if somebody says in Arabic, so that person will say, Ana Shahzad. Whereas in English language, that person will say, I am Shahzad. So in English language, he will have to use an auxiliary, that is am, I am Shahzad. But in Arabic language, there is no auxiliary. That person will say, Ana Shahzad. So when an Arabic learner of the English language speaks English language, so he or she makes the same mistake. That is, in English language, he also says or she also says, I Shahzad. So this one mistake in the English language is because of the interference of his or her mother tongue, that is Arabic language. And with the passage of time, that learner overcomes this mistake. Similarly, another example I give, just like a second language learner of the English language sometimes says that I go to the university yesterday, instead of saying I went to the university yesterday. In this regard, that learner makes a mistake, that is, he or she overgeneralizes the use of the regular past tense. As we use to make the regular past tense, simple past tense, we add d or ed with the present form of the verb. So that learner overgeneralizes that rule and adds ed with the verb go instead of saying went. So this is because of the overgeneralization of the rule of the English language. So instead of saying that I went to the university yesterday, that learner says I go to the university yesterday. So these are some examples of the mistakes which during the process or during the stage of the interlanguage, the second language learners of the English language make. So when we move forward towards learning of the English language, and gradually we overcome these mistakes, and finally a stage comes when we fully grasp the English language, or when we get complete proficiency, full proficiency in the English language. So the whole process, when we started learning the English language as a beginner level learner, and then with the passage of time, we acquired native-like proficiency in the English language. So this whole period, this whole stage is known as interlanguage. And during this stage, we make mistakes, we correct our mistakes, we develop our mental grammar of the English language, we construct our mental grammar of the English language, and we reconstruct our mental grammar of the English language, and finally we come to a stage where we have fully learned the target language, that is the English language. However, this process does not always end at complete proficiency in the English language. Different learners learn different levels of proficiency in the target language, here as we are using the example of the English language. So all the learners do not achieve native-like proficiency in the target language, rather they fossilize in the middle of the process, and most of the time the second language learners fossilize. Very few learners achieve native-like proficiency in the target language. So this process is known as fossilization. Fossilization, the term fossilization has also been derived from the term fossils or fossilization, which is a term which often used in the subject or in the field of biology. You know that fossils, or the term fossilize, is used for something when it decays or when it ends. So from that term, Larry Salenker has taken this term fossilization and used it in applied linguistics and in the field of second language acquisition as well. So the fossilization in the field of SLA, second language acquisition, refers to a stage when the learner stops learning the target language, and this varies in different learners. Some learners fossilize earlier, some learners fossilize at a later stage, and some of the learners, they achieve native-like proficiency in the target language. So this process, when a learner stops learning the target language, this process or this stage is known as fossilization. I hope that with the help of these examples, you will be better able to understand these two concepts of interlanguage and fossilization, which as I explained in my previous video, that these two terms were used by Larry Salenker, an American professor of applied linguistics, in 1972. Thank you so much.